We're talking about where Flash is headed, how it has changed, what HTML5 means. Around 2003, right around 2003 is when I finished up at DMA. And it was very much a time for Flash developers. In real terms, Flash developers could kind of pick the projects that they wanted to work on. They were highly sought after. There weren't that many who would do it really, really well. And as a result, companies needed it and they were willing to pay for it. Now, fast forwarding to today, generally you find that the advice is that you cannot be just a Flash developer anymore. The demand has dropped in some ways, but in other ways it has increased. So let's talk about the ways that it has dropped. It's predicted that by 2013 there will be a significantly higher number of people going online on mobile devices than there are on desktop. Because desktop is always going to be needed for the people creating content. But by far, the people consuming content may not need full-on desktop anymore. So where does this leave the Flash developer? Well, currently, having done a lot of work with both Flash and with other options, I can say that Flash currently is not a great option for mobile devices. There's a lot of work being done to get it there, but today, right now, it's not really there. There's really only two ways that rich media goes on this device. First, the more obvious one is with video. So when you see a piece of video rendered inside of Safari, it's actually being rendered inside the GPU, not inside the CPU. Safari's rendering of movement of rich media for anything else than H.264 video is pathetic. If you want to have rich media on this device, you need to make an app. Does this mean that Flash is dead? A lot of people would say yes, because they view Flash as something that you see inside the browser. However, Adobe is taking quite a different tactic. As much as I kind of miss those immersive Flash websites that we used to build all the time because they were really fun and really cool, if you think of it, if you stand back and you really think about those sites, it wasn't a site anymore. It was a piece of software. So what we're doing is we're scouring publicly available information from Facebook status updates, tweets, some other sources. We're running mood finding algorithms against them and geolocation in order to determine the prevailing mood in different parts of Canada. Think about what's happening here and ask yourself, is it a website anymore? To me, it's not. To me, this is software. And if you saw the code for it, you'd agree that it's software. I love that Apple has made things tough for us. I love it because it's forcing us to say, if we're going to do something like this, treat it as a software project. It's an app now. It's not a website, and that's good for us. Because the expectation for building a website, for building web pages, is far, far different than what it is for building a piece of software. With building a piece of software, you have those 5 steps of the cone of uncertainty very locked down, and people expect it. The difference is that you're now creating a product rather than creating an advertisement. The site is seen as an advertisement. The app is seen as a product, and therefore it goes into a production cycle. It is now possible to create apps using Flash. So this is why I'm quite optimistic for the future of Flash. It's still Flash Player, and it's still a Swift. It's always Swift for every way that you view Flash. And there's Flash Player. Same as up here. But what's different is that it's not going into a web page. It's going into a wrapper, which is called Air.
The Air doesn't have access to all the native Android app services that they offer. So there's a whole list of services. Like, for example, if the Android list of services that big, Air only has access to that much. Android doesn't have, Air doesn't have access to the Android notifications. So we actually found a backdoor to that where we had to rip apart like an Air app. Like we'll make the Air app, we'll rip it apart, make an Android app that hits the services that we need, rip that apart. Once we rip apart both those packages, we kind of sew them together, making like a Frankenstein APK. Yeah.